afternoon, or should I say good evening. This is the beginning of the holiest day of the year, Kol Nidre. Today was the 9th day of Tishrei, 5781, which corresponded to Sunday, September 27th, 2020. Last week, we had a very big weekend. This week, we've got an even bigger one day. As the sun goes down tonight, we face a really big problem. Last week, we said 9 days ago, on Rosh Hashanah it is written, and on Yom Kippur it is sealed. Since last Saturday, actually since last Sunday, we have tried to convince God to change our expected negative judgment. Now we have 1 day left. The questions, two of them to consider right now. One is, how is this service so different? Well, Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the year. And at the end of this day, God's decision for the upcoming year will be finalized, or as we say, sealed. And this is a multi-sensory service. If you show up to the synagogue on a regular year, people are in white. For the only night of the year, we wear the talit. Some people intentionally wear a white kippah like I do. Even our shoes are different. We try to avoid leather shoes. We have basically 25 or so hours left to change God's decision. And we are assuming the worst. This afternoon, we ate a very large meal, partially to prepare for a very long fast, which is an absolute fast. But symbolically, this was our last meal before the judgment takes effect. And in many traditional circles, before we have that meal, we said the afternoon service, which is said every day. We need to complete any action that might help us before we start this day. And we added to that afternoon service the confessions, 2 statements of confessing our sins, which are usually only said on Yom Kippur. Today is an extremely holy day. Kol Nidre is the overture, the beginning. It gives a taste of what is going to happen. The Torahs will be taken out, and that must be done before the sun goes down, because we will be creating a court here in the room. The 3 judges, 2 Torahs, and whoever is leading the service, the Shliach Tzibor. However, you cannot hold a court at night, so this must be done before the sun goes down on the start of the 10th day of Tishrei. Now, we're going to set the stage, and for this service this evening, we will be using the regular machzor, so your parents might have it. I'll be referring to pages from here. And to help us set the stage, if you turn to page 203, sorry, I got that wrong, page 204. In the middle of the page, we have a statement, actually near the bottom. It's an affirmation that's stated 3 times. And the ark at this point is already opened. I'm missing something, but that's okay. Down near the bottom it says, Bishiva shamala, uvishiva shamata, al dat hamakom, bi'al dat hakahal, anu matirin, litpalelim ha'avyarnim. And we say this 3 times, by the authority of the court on high, and by the authority of this court below. With divine consent and with the consent of the congregation, we grant permission to pray with those who have sinned. Now, that's a ridiculous statement if I ever heard one. Name one person who hasn't. But that's how we begin. We say it 3 times. We then go in on page 205 using a very special melody, a statement that's not in Hebrew. It is in Aramaic, our legal language. It is a formula to annul oaths and vows. And it is said 3 times, like any legal statement. Now, I'd like you to imagine, since I don't have any helpers today, like I normally would, there are people on either side, each holding a Sefer Torah, 1 Torah on either side, and I represent the third. And we get the beginning. Now, I got to tell you, years and years and years ago, when I was studying in Israel, I went to a movie, and this movie played this melody in the middle of the film, and everybody in the theater began humming along with it. That's how powerful the melody is. Not that it's an upbeat melody or anything like that, but the strange thing about it is it wasn't around Yom Kippur. No, this was in the spring. It was actually during Passover break that I saw the movie, and everybody in the theater was humming along with it. Kol nidrei v'yasarei v'charamei v'konamei v'chinuyei v'kinusei u'shavot din darna u'dishtabana u'de'achramina v'di'arsana anavshatana miyom kippurim zeh ad yom kippurim haba aleinu letova kulhon yichatna bahon kulhon yihon sharan shivitin betelin umavutalim lo sharirin velo kayamim nidrana lo nidre v'yasarna lo esare u'v'shuatana lo shavot. And that gets repeated 3 times. We'll just do it twice, the second time in English at the top of 205 in the English. All vows, renunciations, bans, oaths, formulas of obligation, pledges, and promises that we vow or promise to ourselves and to God from this Yom Kippur to the next, may it approach us for good. We hereby retract. May they all be undone, repealed, canceled, voided, annulled, and regarded as neither valid nor binding. Our vows shall not be considered vows, our renunciations shall not be considered renunciations, and our promises shall not be considered promises. This is an unusual statement to make. All of our vows for the upcoming year are annulled, but then we get a foreshadowing of what's to come. We get an announcement in our opening, our overture, also said 3 times back in the Hebrew on page 205. V'nislach l'chol adat b'nei Yisrael v'lager hagar b'tocham Ki l'chol ha'am bishgaga. The entire congregation of the people of Israel shall be forgiven, as well as the stranger who dwells among them, for all of them have erred or made a mistake. But that's still not enough. We then know where we're going at the end of tomorrow. Vayomer Adonai, salachti kidvarecha. And that's said 3 times. Vayomer Adonai, salachti kidvarecha. And Adonai replied, I have forgiven as you have asked. Which is a quote from the Torah after Moses interceded at the end of one time of rebellion against God. Having done that, said it 3 times, we are coming to the end of our introduction, our overture to the evening. And of course, we say the blessing for the holiday. Bottom sentence on page 205. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of time and space, for granting us life, for sustaining us, and for bringing us to this moment. I'm going to close the ark. And I just want to review some of the things that are going on here. What is so unusual about Kol Nidre? Well, there's a lot. A court is held in the last minutes of daylight before a holiday. This is illegal according to Jewish law. The court convenes with a statement that everyone who has sinned can come and pray with us. Since no one is without sin, how can this be said? It sounds like there's nobody here we're all free of sin. That makes no sense. The formula itself of Kol Nidre cancels promises, oaths, and vows from now until next Yom Kippur. According to Jewish law, this is illegal. You cannot do this. The promise of forgiveness is taken out of context. It's actually a statement in the Torah about a sacrifice that is made when someone sins by accident. But here, we take it to mean that God will forgive us. The statement of divine forgiveness that we ended it, Vayomer Adonai, and God said, I have forgiven according to your will, is what we want God to do. These things are impossible things. 5 impossible things to do. Well, that makes a 6th one altogether. What we have just done is the Kiddush for Yom Kippur. We have just started our fast. We have just made the day holy. And that is exactly what this is, what is so special about tonight. It is the holiest day of the year, and tonight is the holiest moment of the whole thing.